𝗗cie𝗰𝘁ție. The voice came from their left like horn of a truck, startling both of them. They jolted apart like they were caught doing something they shouldn't. Her hands flew to her sides. His retreated like he touched fire. His jaw tightened as he turned toward the source. A junior doctor, maybe in his second year of residency, was dragging his very drunk friend across the parking lot. The guy was out of it, barely able to keep his head up. The junior looked panicked, eyes wide. Sorry, he's not responding properly. Can you help me get him to the taxi? He ran a hand through his hair, letting out a slow breath, and then walked over without a word. She watched as he slipped into place, beside the junior, grabbing the unconscious boy's other arm and slinging it over his shoulder. Let's get him inside before he throws up on you. They helped the boy into the taxi that was waiting for them, probably the junior called it. Thank you, 𝗗cie𝗰𝘁ție. Jungkook nodded as the smaller one bowed. He looked back at In, who was still waiting by the car, arms crossed, the faintest crease between her brows. When he reached her, they didn't speak. No mention of what almost happened. No mention of the way they nearly melted into each other like a fuse, then lit. The silence said enough. They walked side by side, heading back inside, the music punching the air louder now. I've been thinking. She spoke first, eyes on the crowd, about trying one of those drinks. He glanced at her, then frowned. Have you ever drunk before? She raised a shoulder. No, never really thought about it. But tonight, I don't know. It just looks tempting. He gave her a look flat and direct. No, her brow furrowed. Why not? Because I don't know your alcohol tolerance. And it's not something you test in a place like this. She tilted her head, brows lifting a little. Well, you can just order something not strong, right? Since you might have known more about it. Just a little taste. How about that? He didn't hesitate. No. They were at the edge of the crowd now, the music beating like a pulse through the floor. Her eyes scanned the table of drinks. Why not? I just told you why. Don't repeat same questions. She was quiet for a while. But if I want to drink, I'll drink anyway. You know that, right? The spine straightened.
His heart gave a violent thump.
Suddenly, her voice came a lot closer to his ear than he expected. You'll take care of me, wouldn't you? His head snapped towards her, and her face was just inches away from his. When did she lean that close? There was this little teasing smile on her face. Was she flirting? His jaw flexed. There was not a single drop of alcohol in her system, yet she was testing something that shouldn't be tested. Of course I would. He was saying, her pupils dilated a little. Someone behind them shouted for another drink. A table somewhere erupted into cheers. The moment snapped like a stretched wire. Dee stepped back and she blinked, straightened her spine, and looked away. He reached for a bottle of water nearby. He needed something cold, preferably poured over his damn head. Jungkook should have known. He really, truly should have known. He shouldn't give in all of her request. That the moment she took that first sip, that overly sweet, fizzy pink drink, and smiled, like she just found the meaning of life, he should have called it a night. Dragged her home, locked the door, hidden all future drinks for eternity. But no. He let her enjoy it. And now her drunk ass was holding a karaoke mic. He sat at the far edge of the room, elbow on the table, fingers loosely curled near his lips, staring at her with a look that could only be described as long-suffering. The lights were dim and flickering with the beat of whatever chaos was being screamed into the mic. People were clapping. Someone was banging on a table. The bass was shaking the floor. And she was yelling her heart out. As the fate of the world depended on her absolutely butchering every note of a 2005 pop anthem. His left eye twitched. He warned her on the first drink it would be her first and last drink, but, well, nothing goes as he planned. She told him she would behave, and he believed her. His first mistake. Someone beside him was laughing too hard to even clap. He wasn't sure if it was at the song or her attempt at it. She dragged two of her intern friends into it now, all of them swaying side to side, slurring lyrics. If Jungkook hadn't already lost 10% of his hearing from the trauma.ward alarms, this moment would have done it. Did he mention she tried to drag him up there with her two-time already? Grabbed his wrist with her tiny fingers. He had to free himself gently, pretending to be busy with his phone, with the drink in his hand, with literally anything else. Because no, he wasn't doing karaoke. This was exactly why he avoided these kinds of gatherings. It was too loud for his likings. But then again, he looked back at her. She was laughing now, doubled over, hands on her knees, as one of her friends tried to rap and failed miserably. Her face was flushed, eyes crinkled. That little necklace of hers catching the flashing lights just enough to remind him of earlier. Despite the noise, despite the headache forming at the edge of his skull, he didn't move from his place. The reason for that was, currently screaming into the mic like she was exorcising a demon. He wasn't her father. Wasn't some rigid killjoy mentor who wanted to ruin her fun ... if she came out tonight. She deserved to enjoy it. Still ... one more song like that and he might actually lose his last good nerve. Behavin'. His voice was low, jaw ticking like a time bomb, hand slapping lightly against the back of her hand as she struggled again, trying for the fifth time to wrap both arms around his wrist and pull herself free like a stubborn child. "No," she whined. "You behave." She tried to pinch him. Actually pinch him ... his patience, which already been hanging by a thread the width of a hair, frayed just a little more. "Can you at least try to behave?" he said again, this time a little sharper. The tone has the authority he used in emergency rooms, when people's lives were on the line. Unfortunately, she was drunk, and the drunk version of her, even more bratty. "You're so boring," she groaned, dragging her steps just to be more annoying. "All you do is sit around all serious and speak logic. Logic this, logic that, blah 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 and blah." He closed his eyes for a beat. This was not the version of her he signed up for tonight. "Yeah," he muttered. "Am I boring now?" "Yes, you are." "Loosen up." Her words cut off by a hiccup. "I did loosen up. That's why I'm now suffering the consequences." "Oh, so I'm the consequence of your suffering." He didn't even dignify that with a reply. Just gave her an unimpressed look that could level a city. "Wow, you didn't even deny it." She tried to grab at his wrist again, in a little growl escaping his throat. "This is your last warning. Behave, or I swear I'll throw you over my shoulder and drag you to the car. Would you like that?" She narrowed her eyes at him. Her fingers reached to poke his waist. "You won't. You're just talk. I bet you won't do anything. Because you're..." That was the exact moment his patience gave up, packed a bag, and left the building. He didn't even let her finish her sentence. His arms moved, one arm around her legs, the other supporting her back. "What are you doing?" she squealed, suddenly perched on his shoulder like a sack of drunken flour. "I warned you,"
he said through gritted teeth, standing straight with her slung securely over him. "You don't listen. This is what happens."
"This is kidnapping," she cried, pounding her fists weakly on his back. "You can't do this. You're a doctor. This isn't good for your reputation. There are people watching." "Let them. Put me down. No, put me down. I'm sorry. I won't run again. Nope. Please." He just kept walking toward the parking lot like she weighed nothing. "I'm feeling sick," she said after a second. "I'm gonna puke on you. Try it. I'll make you mop the entire hospital lobby for the next month." She groaned, flailing a little, then she went still. He felt it a second before it happened. Her hands braced against his shoulders, then her teeth sank just below his jaw. "Fuh," he hissed, gritting his jaw tight as he bit down on his lower lip, trying not to react. His steps didn't slow, but everything inside him was buzzing, nerves, adrenaline. He reached the car, pressed the key fob to unlock it, and the lights blinked once. He bent slightly, letting her slide down off his shoulder. And she finally let go, her teeth finally parted from his neck.
His hands moved firm around her arms as he backed her against the car. Maybe a was for balance.
Maybe to center himself. Maybe because if he let her go now, she'd do something else that would make this night even harder than it already was. Her back hit the car door softly. She was so close he could smell the faint sweetness of her shampoo mixed with the scent of the place. They just escaped.
His breathing was shallow.
He didn't even realize it until he felt the air catch in his throat. She looked up at him through those half-lidded eyes. Cheeks flushed pink, nose red from the chill, lips slightly parted, glistening with her own saliva. He closed his eyes for a second. No, stop thinking. She was drunk, not in control. This wasn't her. She wouldn't even remember this in the morning.
He took a deep breath, pulling away. Inside.
She finally listened. This time she didn't put any fight. She wobbled slightly but didn't fall. He guided her into the passenger seat, lowering her down before she could open her mouth again. She pouted up at him, but he didn't meet her eyes. Seatbelt, his voice came out gruff. She gave a quiet hum, maybe thinking about something to argue. But before she could say anything else, he shut the door and stepped back. He turned away, running a hand down his neck. He could still feel the sting of her teeth. He glanced in the side mirror, tilted it slightly, and there was a huge red mark blooming across the side of his neck like a scarlet warning sign. She was going to regret this. He knew it. The second she sobered up, he knew she would. He exhaled heavily, head dropping for a second as he rested both palms on the car's roof, the cold metal grounding him. Only if he knew she was this fierce when drunk, he would have made sure she never touched a single damn drop. But then, again, he hadn't even been able to say no when she looked at him like that. You'll take care of me, wouldn't you?
He sighed again. His fault too.
Then, he finally walked around to the driver's side and got in. The silence inside the car was a blessing. Because now her head was on the window probably, she dozed off. Not knowing what chaos she left behind because now all he could think about was the heat of her body pressed against him. And the damn mark on his neck that still burned like a brand. Her head was pounding. Not like a little throbbing behind. The eyes kind of headache. No, it's like her skull was hosting a metal band concert inside. Every beat of the drum synced to the pulse behind her eyes. She groaned, flopping her arm over her face as she rolled in bed. The sunlight, streaming through the gap in her curtains, was glaring at her. Why was it so bright? Why was her mouth dry? And why, for the love of God, did it feel like her entire body was floating in a sea? She blinked slowly, the ceiling coming into focus in blurry patches. Bits and pieces of her memories came to her like TV channels. She remembered asking for a drink. Jungkook refusing her, convincing him. You, she whined as she sat up too fast. Big mistake. The room blurred, her hand shooting to the edge of the bed as if she could hold the floor in place. The second she was on her feet, the room swayed, and she ran to the bathroom like her life depended on it. She barely made it to the sink before she leaned over. Her stomach flipped violently before finally deciding to give up its contents whatever little remained from last night. After a long minute of just standing there, forehead resting against the mirror, she turned the tap and rinsed her mouth, again and again as if she could wash off the consequences of last night. When she shuffled back into her room, wiping her mouth on a towel, something caught her eye on the knitstand. Sitting neatly on the knitstand, a glass of water, 2 painkillers. And a folded note. She opened the note. It was, of course, his handwriting, which was neat, clean, slanted a little to the right. Like he always wrote things in a rush, but still made sure it looked decent. Morning. Won't say good morning because it probably doesn't feel good. Pills are for the hangover you're definitely suffering from. I left around 7 a.m. Call a cab, okay? Had to be at the hospital early. Jungkook, P.S. You're banned from drinking from the rest of your stay here. She slapped the note over her face and groaned into it. What the hell did I do last night? She dropped the note and reached for the pills, gulping them down with half the glass of water. Then she glanced at the clock on her knitstand. 8:47 a.m. No, she had to be at the hospital by 9 o'clock. She scrambled to her closet, grabbing the first pair of trousers, blouse that didn't need ironing. She was tugging the shirt over her head. A memory hit her out of nowhere. If you don't behave, I will throw you over my shoulder and drag you to the car. Would you like that? Her hand froze halfway through the sleeve. You won't. You're just talk. I bet you won't do anything. Her stomach twisted again, not from the hangover, but from pure blistering embarrassment. Oh my god, the image of Jungkook stern and serious saying all those things. Her poking him. Oh god, did I really try to poke him? She tugged the blouse down, running a hand through her hair. Her face was already heating up when another memory struck. This one a little hazier but impossible to ignore. The car his arms her back hitting the car door his breath fanned over her face. Warm and shallow and too close his hand on the door behind her. His chest almost touching hers. His eyes locked on her mouth her own lips tingled at the memory Her eyes snapped open, lips parted in horror. What the hell was going on last night? She clutched her chest like it would somehow help. Her heart stopped sprinting She tried to shake the memory away, but it clung to her like perfume on skin. What else had happened? Yeah, I'm never drinking again. Ever because there was something in pit of her stomach that was telling her that wasn't all. Something else had happened too. Emergency department 11:10 a.m. Before we jump in, Yoongi said, standing by the head of the bed, with his hands in the pockets of his white coat, watching them like a bored hawk. Can someone here tell me what a code blue means? The interns glanced at one another like he just asked them to solve quantum physics . Great. 6 of you. And not a single working brain between you. Yoongi scanned disappointment. Minna cleared her throat. Cardiac arrest. Full arrest situation. Immediate resuscitation protocol is initiated. Correct. He nodded, then turned to other intern. And what's the first thing you do when a patient codes? Check responsiveness? Good, you're not completely hopeless. And after that, shout for help? Jerry added with a hesitant smile. Yoongi gave a mock clap. Brilliant, revolutionary, someone promote him. A few chuckles broke out nervously. Yoongi looked around the room. Let me be clear. Code blue means a life is literally on a timer. Your panic, your hesitation, your brain fog, can cost that life. So whatever nerves you brought with you today, I suggest you leave them at the door. This is the closest. You'll get to real pressure without a grieving family in the next room. He walked closer to the dummy mannequin hooked up to wires and machines. A loud, continuous beep filled the air, the artificial flatline of a heart monitor. Panic-inducing, even if you knew it was fake, and he pressed the button of machine. Your patient is a 56-year-old male. No pulse, no breathing. Your job is to bring him back. What happened to him? One intern asked. Yoongi raised a brow. Does it matter right now? Silence. No, sir, the intern muttered. Correct. Now who's the leader? He asked, already knowing no. One would step up. Yoongi exhaled loudly through his nose. Great. Love the initiative in this room. And you're leading this. What? She blinked. Double quotes, you heard me. If he dies, it's your fault. A few of the interns snorted nervously. She swallowed and stepped up to the head of the bed. Okay, chest compressions. We need someone to start CPR now, she said quickly. I'll do it, Jerry said, coming forward. 2 inches deep, 100 to 120 compressions per minute, let's go. Yoongi barked, pacing around them now. The sound of compressions began, and in checked the monitor. Grabbing the ambu bag. I'll handle the airway, bag valve every 6 seconds. Someone get the defibrillator ready. I got it, Mira fumbled with the paddles. You sure you know how? Yoongi asked, his tone biting. Yes, I do, she answered. A little too quickly. Yoongi sighed and sipped his coffee again. If I die in this hospital, remind me not to let any of you near me. And ignored him. Her hands were shaking a bit, but she locked her focus on the dummy's face. Okay, clear on the shock. Everyone move. Clear. Delivering shock. Now. The machine beeped again. Still FLATLINE dot double quotes. Another round of CPR. Start again. Sweat formed on everyone's temples. It felt like a real patient, and mainly it was because of the hawk gaze burning into them. You've got 1 minute left to revive him, Jungkook announced. Otherwise, start planning the funeral. Continue compressions. Let's give 1 milligram epinephrine. 4 push. An intern handed her the fake syringe and she administered it quickly. Okay, let's try again. Charging to 200, everyone clear. She pressed the shock button again. The beep sounded 3 times before the normal sinus rhythm. Everyone let out a collective breath. Jungkook finally looked satisfied. He walked over, shutting off the monitor. Barely revived him. You were 30 seconds away from killing the poor dummy, but at least he's alive. Any guesses how that went? Jungkook asked, looking around. Terrible? Someone offered. Exactly, but not the worst I've seen. He nodded toward her. You didn't freeze. That's a start. Thanks? I mean, do better next time. She bit her lips as he took another sip of coffee and walked out of the room without another word. Does he ever compliment without the threat of a heart attack? Jerry asked, still catching his breath. I don't think so. I almost thought I felt like I was on deathbed. They all let out a chuckle. Lunch? Nora asked. Please, yes. Let's go before he comes back with another dummy. But as they all left the room, the tension started to loose, and she realized she kind of liked this pressure. It was terrifying, but for once she felt like she was capable of something. She just survived her first real Code Blue simulation. And Jungkook didn't roast her alive. That was a win. But the moment she stepped out of the emergency room, she felt the air turn heavy. Or maybe it wasn't the air, it was her nerves from the mock drill. Still, as she took more steps, she felt the anxiety in her increasing, instead of leaving her body. She stopped by the cafeteria and grabbed 2 sandwiches and 2 iced coffees, one for her, one for Jungkook. He always took care of her, this was the least she could do. The cold condensation from the drink trailed down her wrist as she walked back toward the hallway. She wasn't sure why, but a quiet voice in her head whispered check, the pediatric wing. Maybe he's in the room. Maybe he's with Ari. She picked up her pace. Room 421, but when she reached her door, it was open and empty. Sheets folded, lights off. Not a single machine blinking. Not a trace of her tiny body or the soft teddy, bear she used to keep beside her pillow. She stepped back, her eyes darting left and right. That strange, tight feeling in her throat began to rise. Something was not right. Something was wrong. Ria, she called out when she saw the familiar nurse walk past. She turned, almost flinching as she looked up from the clipboard. Double quotes? Yeah? Do you know where Ari is? Her brows furrowed. Ari? Ariam, the girl who was in this room, 11 years old. Oh, she said. I think she was moved to ICU early this morning. Oh, I think she was shifted to ICU this morning. What? The weird feeling returned back in force this time. Why? Yeah, they called a team around 8 or 9, I think. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I wasn't on duty in pediatrics today. I only heard from someone during handover. You can ask someone in ICU directly. No, it's okay. Thank you, she mumbled, suddenly feeling cold. Despite the warm sandwich in her hand. She gave her a quick smile before disappearing around the corner. Her mind couldn't process fast enough. ICU? Why? Jungkook said she was stable. She checked on her on Friday. Then why? She passed a few interns chatting in the hallway, turned the corner, and almost collided into a man hurrying in the opposite direction. Jungkook-sanbae, she exhaled in relief. But one look at his face made the ground beneath her feet feel even less stable. Shit, sorry I wasn't looking. No, it's okay, she said. Do you know where Jungkook is? Have you seen him? He looked at her. No. He shook his head. But you should find him. Why? Is everything okay? Please say yes. Jungkook didn't respond. Something was wrong. Sunbae, what's going on? He finally exhaled and then looked straight at her. Ari's dead. Her grip on her food almost slips before she tightens. The nausea started to make its way towards her throat. No, how's that possible? She was fine. Jungkook said. I know, he interrupted. I got to know now too. And just don't ask. Question now, find him. Her legs started walking before she even told them to because she needed to see him. She needed to find him. She checked the ICU, then the Pez wing again, just in case, but he wasn't in any of the usual places. She stood in the hallway for a minute. Everything was going on as usual. She hasn't even seen him since morning. And with each step she took, the ache in her chest spread a little wider. She knew what Ari meant to him. She wasn't just a patient. She was someone he checked on personally every day, even when he wasn't on duty. Someone he smiled with, sat next to. Brought little juice, boxes, choco pies, brought her nail polishes, and spoiled her as much as he could. She stopped at the hallway where the supply rooms was in the east wing walls. She didn't even know why she went there. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was hope. The door was slightly ajar. The overhead lights were dimmed. She almost turned back until she saw the faintest shape inside. Even from behind, even without seeing his face, she knew it was him. He was in front of the tiny steel sink in the corner. The faucet was running. He was washing his face slowly. She just stand there quietly, unsure if she should go in or turn around. Her fingers curled slightly around the sandwich still in her hand. A stupid gesture now. He didn't need food. She didn't even know what he needed. Still she took one step ahead. Jungkook? The muscles of his back going rigid. But he didn't turn around, his fingers tightening around the edge of the metal sink. After a moment, he reached forward and turned the tap off. He grabbed a tissue from the side and patted his face dry, and then he finally turned around. He didn't say anything. He wasn't even surprised it was her. Because his eyes said everything. They were red and hollow, like someone drained the energy out of him. I heard. She started, then stopped because the lump in her throat got too tight. She didn't know what to say. What could she possibly say that wouldn't sound small or hollow or painfully useless? So she just stepped closer. One careful foot in front of the other, until she stood right in front of him, close enough to hear the sound of his breathing. Close enough to see the faint crease between his brows, the tension clinging to his jaw. She hesitated for a second, then lifted her arms, slowly, asking permission. When he didn't pull away, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, fitting herself against the solid weight of his chest. He didn't hug her back at first, but she didn't mind. She just held him, resting her cheek against the curve of his shoulder. But then his hands came up, pressing against her back, his fingers gripping the fabric of her coat. His forehead dipped just a little, resting against the side of her head. He let out a breath. It was barely audible, just a slow breath ghosting across her hairline. But she felt the grief, the guilt, the helplessness. She didn't say a word, neither did he, because sometimes silence says the most, because words like, it's okay. Or it will be okay, do nothing, because she knew it's not okay. The noise of the hospital lights above them, the faint echo of faraway footsteps, and the odor of antiseptic around them, it all disappeared. Everything seemed far away, disconnected. This moment was paused, just as the world outside was. He held her, not tightly nor desperately, but enough. Enough to let her feel the tension gently drain from him. Enough to make her realize he didn't need her words, only her presence. She didn't know how long they stayed like that. Could have been minutes, could have been more. Time didn't really exist in grief. It stretched and collapsed like breath. Eventually he pulled back, sniffed once, and then straightened, smoothing his hand down the front of his coat. I need to wrap up a few things. She looked up at him. If it's not urgent, maybe, can you postpone it? He met her gaze. The weariness behind his eyes hadn't faded, but there was something steadier now, like he was ready to put his armor back on. It has to be done, he said softly. Some of it's for 𝗗cie family, paperwork, records, and other things. She nodded, understanding. Okay, I'll wait for you outside. He gave her a small nod, grateful, but tired, and then turned. Walking out of the supply room, she watched him disappear around the corner before letting herself breathe out. The kind of breath you don't realize you're holding until it burns in your lungs. She waited for him just outside, near the parking area. She leaned against the passenger side of the car, arms crossed, looking. Nothing in particular. Half an hour passed. She finally heard his footsteps. Can I have the keys? She said as he reached near the car. Why? I'll drive. It's fine, I can. Please just let me. You're tired, I know you are. He looked at her for a moment, clearly debating, the keys in. His hand motionless, but she didn't back down. Just held her. Hand out, palm open. With a sigh that sounded like it came from somewhere deep, he. Reached into his pocket and placed the keys in her hand. She smiled, trying to bring back a little lightness. I promise, I'm a decent driver. Haven't hit a single pole since I got my license. He gave her a barely small twitch of his lips. I trust you, he said, quietly. And those 3 words somehow settled deeper than she expected. She got into the driver's seat and adjusted it. He was taller. Much taller, but not before glancing at him through the rearview mirror. As he slid into the passenger side. He looked smaller today, not in size though, but in posture. She didn't say anything more. Just started the car and pulled out of the lot, letting the road guide them out of the hospital grounds. The ride was silent, but she kept glancing sideways. After a few minutes of drive, he finally leaned his head back against the seat, eyes closed, arms crossed over his chest. At first, she thought he just had his eyes closed. But his breathing evened out, his body going completely still. And she realized he was asleep. He must have fought so hard to keep it together after losing 𝗗cie. And he was finally letting himself rest, even if only for a short drive. Her fingers tightened slightly around the steering wheel. He looked relaxed like this. His jaw wasn't clenched. The tight pull between his brows smoothed. She didn't want to wake him up, so drove as slow as she could so he could rest a little more. They reached after half an hour. She just sat there in the parked car, hands folded in her lap. She watched him for a while. Didn't mean to watch him in a creepy way, but he looked so unguarded right now, and that makes something inside her curl warm. Jungkook. She couldn't let him keep sleeping here. He needed an actual bed after the long, tiring day. His lashes fluttered, a soft breath escaped. His lips, as he turned his head, turned slightly, and his eyes opened hazy from sleep. He blinked a few times before running a hand over his face. Did I fall asleep? She smiled gently. You did. His brows furrowed as he sat up straighter. I didn't mean to. It's fine, we should get inside, then you can rest in your room. He looked at her, then nodded, sighing once again. Walked inside slowly. The door clicked shut behind them, and the silence of the house felt heavier than usual. She placed the keys on the counter and he kicked off his shoes. Would you like to eat something? He shook his head, not even turning to look. No, I think I'm just going to lie down. She nodded once. Okay. There wasn't anything else to say. She didn't take it personally. How could she? His shoulders looked like they were carrying 100 years' worth of weight. There was grief in the way he walked. She could see it pressing down on him like soaked fabric. Without another word, he walked down the hallway toward his bedroom. And she watched him until the door clicked shut behind him. She stayed in the kitchen for a little while longer, fingers lightly, brushing the counter. Her eyes lingering on the space where he was standing. There were so many things she could have said, but none of them would have made it better. She exhaled, then turned toward her own room, the silence trailing after her like a shadow.